Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to a truly special online event today. It's called Explore Ascension Mantras from the Archangels. Experience sacred sounds from the 12 Angels of Atlantis to harmonize with celestial guidance. My name is Stephen Dine. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network. And like you, we're going through a tumultuous time. And in these times, it's very important for us to anchor in the highest frequencies possible, which helps to stabilize us and harmonize the world around us. And we're going to get to explore some of those most elevated frequency patterns and how they're connected with archangels, with a remarkable teacher. His name is Stewart Pearce. He's a master of voice. He's an angelic emissary, author, inspirational speaker. He's coached very eminent people around the world. He is also really an emissary for a kind of a higher intelligence on the planet. And he's fresh back from Egypt, so he's going to be carrying some of those codes in this call as well. So Stewart, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Oh, Stephen, it's such an honor and a pleasure, always to be with you, but also to address the wonder of your large community with the excitement and anticipation of the forthcoming course, which unfortunately, because I'm so busy, is only going to be a 7-part course rather than a 12-part course. But I will give it my all, and I know that anybody who attends will have the most amazing time.
Mm. Well, Stuart is referencing the Ascension Mantras from the Angels of Atlantis. It's a course that we'll share more about towards the end of the hour. Well, Stuart, when we talk about the Angels of Atlantis, there's a story behind that, and a very powerful story that's really set a certain trajectory for your life. I'd love for you to share some of that now and why that led to some of what we're going to be learning about Ascension Mantras.
Yeah, well, the glory of meeting the Angels of Atlantis took place over the August weekend in 1987 that we refer to as the harmonic convergence, which I sort of stepped into without prior information. I think many of us were awakening at that time, August 1987, where we were being alerted or awakened by extraordinary prophecies from the Mayan community that seemed to have an extraordinary insight into the cosmology and astrology of that time sequence. In short, me personally, I was invited by a dear friend of mine who had opened a crystal store in a wonderful town in Somersetshire that most people know of called Glastonbury, the Glass Mountain, which is known quite generally as the heart chakra of the world. There may be a number of heart chakras, but certainly Glastonbury is a gateway into the Isle of Avalon, a gateway into the Fey Kingdom, and one that has been considered within the ancient island of Albion as being extraordinarily powerful over the years. So there I was, serving in this wonderful crystal store that had opened. Glastonbury is a sort of wonderful epicenter, I'm sure many people know, for the nature of the way that we've conducted our spiritual intelligence over the last 40 years. And I was actually reading, because I've been a psychic reader for many years, I was reading for people that were coming into the store. And to be honest, towards the lunchtime period when I knew I had a break, I felt really exhausted by the energies. So I decided to climb the mount, the Tor meaning sacred mountain or sacred hill in Gaelic, in Celtic. And when I got to the top, I meditated surrounded by many, many people. And as I slipped into meditation, which was something by that time that I've been practicing for about 15 or 20 years, I heard the most extraordinary sounds, these high ultrasonic harmonics. And I was so captivated by these sounds, I suppose a way of describing it would be to say that on a parallel, they sounded like the seraphic chorus. I opened my eyes, and in front of me, way up in the air, were 12 huge orbs, different colors. And I heard within my consciousness a voice that I remember from my childhood that I'd identified as Archangel Michael, saying, "We are the angels of Atlantis, and we bring you a temple of sound healing that you will be reminded of, because you were part of this, in the ancient civilization of Atlantis." And as soon as this was said, there was a point of reckoning within me that affected all of the cells of my being. So I felt that I literally was being part of an incandescent field of light from these 12 angels. And a beam of light, I believe, from Archangel Michael poured through my body. And I lost consciousness just for a few moments and woke up with a lot of concerned people around me. I obviously had received some form of energetic download through sound and light. I was completely enchanted by this experience. And of course, to put it into context, I immediately wanted to start teaching some of the amazing information that I received as a psychic channel. And I was told categorically by Michael, you will not. Archangel Michael can be extremely forceful. Archangel Michael within the 12 Angels of Atlantis is appointed as the cosmic leader and works very closely with the cosmic Christ, namely Saint Germain, who originally was Thoth. But that's a complicated autobiography, so we won't necessarily go any further. I asked why, because I'm really quite indigo-like, in the sense of the fact that I'm here as a stuff buster. And I was told, we are going to prepare you, and this will probably take 20 years. Now, I'm not the most patient individual, so that was a great lesson in becoming patient and understanding that what was required of me was a form of embodiment. And that's when I started hearing a series of harmonics or words that were coming through to me in different languages, in the sacred tongues, namely Hebrew, Aramaic, Sanskrit, Tibetan, and Mandarin, the 5 core languages, the sacred languages of our planet, that all tie into the diatonic scale that Western music is based on. And so what came with that was, when the student is ready, the masters come. I was at the same time busily working as a voice coach, because during the 70s, I broke my teeth, so to speak, moving through the industry as an actor. And at the end of the 70s, I moved back from living in the United States, where I was working on Broadway and about to make a big movie, because I discovered that my mother had terminal cancer. So the wheel of fortune went clunk, and I came back to the United Kingdom and nursed my mother. She lasted for a year and then passed. We had a huge soul connection, and so it was a very major rite of passage. After that, my psyche opened, so I reconnected, I remembered most of the energies that I'd been switched into as a child, where I was evidently completely aware of the multidimensional universe, and not very successful in 3D. I'm profoundly dyslexic and also synesthetic, so it was very difficult trying to learn those basic lessons through the world of contemporary education. And I was constantly told that I was nothing and would be nothing. I was obviously working, functioning on a completely different level. However, as a result of that interchange, that rite of passage, a remarkable woman that I'd worked with in a major theatre company in the world called the Royal Shakespeare Company called me out of the blue. This was in 1980, saying, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm not doing anything. I'm being this." And gave her a quick précis of what I'd just been through with my mother's cancer and then her passing. And she said, "I want you to come and teach for me." And I was really surprised by this wonderful summoning. And I said, "But, I really don't have the qualifications to teach voice." She said, "Yes, but there's something about your voice. You are a natural. And you've been through some extraordinary experiences with me, alerting the power of the actor's voice, which at its core is about finding a center in our bodies, what I now refer to as finding our signature note, because we each have a signature note. And then when we find this, we literally find a quality of harmony within our bodies that leads us to our sovereignty, that leads us to the I am presence. So you can see all of this information sort of dovetails into an interconnective process that is about how we embody the substance of our spiritual intelligence, that we're part of this extraordinary project on planet Earth, which is a challenging planet. As we all know, all we have to do is to look into our contemporary landscape. But for those of us that are more alert to what it is to be a spiritual being having a human experience, it's challenging because of weight, space, and time, and the issue of duality. So, for example, many of us are caught in separation from source. So we live lives of fear. And what we're now being asked to do is to regain what that crystalline presence is within our whole being, where we're in connection with the divine. And as a result of that, we can literally download immunity from the source. And so this leads us into the notion of what these codes are all about. But just before I go there, because I know that there are questions that you're going to want to ask about this particular project, these 12 mantra, these 12 angelic codes. The Angels of Atlantis have progressively grown in their community over the last 40 years. So I'm very proud of that. And in fact, 15, 16 years ago, I resigned all of my voice coaching establishment positions because I was master of voice at a leading theatre here, which is the reconstruction of Shakespeare's Globe in London, and gave my life to the work of the angels. So now it is time. I've been very patient over the last 40 years. I've met some extraordinary teachers. When the student is ready, the masters come. So I worked with Sufi elders. I've worked in Native America, in the sense I've been coached or led by a Native American shaman who was a sound healer of the Tewa in the southwest of the US. And also with a remarkable contemporary rabbi who led me into a greater understanding of what my spiritual antecedents are. And so the angels are alive and well and bringing us incandescent love and lots of information about how we can see this time that we're living from a celestial perspective, as well as being highly humanoid.
Mm.
It's not a question of escaping the nature of what it is to be a human. It's a question of really bringing in all of that spiritual intelligence that, for example, was illuminated by Yeshua, by Jesus, in the most extraordinary way. And indeed, as most of us know, that this age of Aquarius that we're living is a return to the principles that he brought forth and how they extrapolated into many other faith traditions, which really denote that love is all there is, and that here we are trying to find a way of dispelling our fear so that we move back into unity consciousness and feel that compassion and empathy are at the very core of our beings.
Mm. Your life is quite an amazing adventure, and thank you for sharing some glimpses of it. I do want to ask a little bit more. You mentioned this sort of seeing our time through more celestial intelligence, spiritual intelligence, the kind of angelic perspective. I think it'd be useful since so many people are experiencing a lot of chaos and just witnessing that in the world, understanding that from the perspective of this, of the angelic intelligence, celestial perspective on this moment we're in collectively, and then that kind of anchors into like, how do we navigate with the support of Ascension Mantras?
Fascinating question, Stephen. So thank you for that. And the easiest way of approaching it, because we know that the conflicts that we see on the stage of planet Earth are so colossal and far-reaching that often we become lost within the miasma, within the maze of what the colossal nature of those testing points are. What the angels give me is that we are passing through a vast shift of consciousness where we perceive that the majority of the central organizing principles of our cultures are based on patriarchal ingredients that are all about control, coercion, and manipulation. The difficulty is, of course, that we have been conditioned by these patriarchal constructs for all of our lives, but also they are deep within our cellular memory because our forebears also lived successfully or unsuccessfully under the helm, the tutelage, or the control of the patriarchal constructs. If we hold in, not in contention, but we hold in stark contrast that the celestial information that is being brought forth at this time is not about controlling, manipulating, and coercion. It's about unity consciousness. It's about meeting people compassionately and empathically, making sure that our boundaries are absolutely extant and precise. So it's not that we're leaking our energy all over the place and trying to find ourselves in a sort of celestial playground. We're literally regarding ourselves from very precise management processes of establishing our boundaries, but of literally yielding and surrendering to the divine forces that are evidently here, because those of us that are living this level of consciousness are experiencing extraordinary magic in our daily lives through synchronicity, through serendipity, through miracles that are taking place. You know, my time in these 3 weeks that I've just spent in Egypt, that every single day was met by the degrees that I'm consciously speaking of now, so that we can feel our entire body being, our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies being unified within, so that our cells become iridescent with the light of divine love, of divine order. And of course, as soon as we start doing this through and recognizing the synchronicity and the serendipity and these wonderful miracles, the retreat was called the Way of Miracles. And every single person on the retreat was able to experience a new way of perceiving their own lives, so that through all of the all of the accumulated information that we move through as we pass through the mythology and the chronology of what ancient Egypt was all about, that we were given extraordinary information that we can use to formulate what we believe the new earth will be, how we can dream that new earth into capacity.
Mm.
And it's not through separation, it's through unity consciousness. The difficulty is that duality has led us into the neuroses of separation rather than recognizing the glory of diversity, that we're all unique in our own ways. So therefore we're really diverse, but not divided.
Mm. So beautifully articulated and completely resonant with what I see as well. I want to ask about sound and the role of sound in this shift in consciousness, in this repatterning, this redesign of society, because it really gets at a deeper level than just some mantras to feel better. So it's really about a redesigning of our reality. And I'd love to share about that and some of the history around that with from Egypt to other civilizations as well, understanding this in a deeper way.
Yeah. You see, I believe fundamentally, absolutely fundamentally, and if there was a moment of doubt within my consciousness, it's been proven to me through the experiences that I've been through that all of this information is within us. We're used to accruing information on the outside of our being through the contemporary reference points that we see as being the educational model, which is all associated with the patriarchal construct of doing, 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 doing. And of course, as we know, we're here as active creators, as cosmic listening posts to bring through active ways, through the masculine aspect of our yang force, to achieve things. I believe that our purpose is to optimize our creativity full of love and joy. It's not about, should I be a pilot, should I be a teacher, should I be a mother, should I be... These are all possibilities. The point is that are we feeling fulfilled to a point where we are literally tonified and opened to the optimum nature of what it is to love, what it is to feel joy, and what it is to feel delighted. So I believe that all of this information is deep within us and that we're moving through an extraordinary time of remembering. We're coming back to all of that information.
Hmm. Can you speak a little bit to some of like the ancient practices of using sound, like with Egypt or ancient Hebrew practices, and how that relates to the Ascension mantras?
Yeah. The difficulty, Stephen, today, having been this voice coach for now 46 years, it's interesting how time goes. And at this time, as we know, the space-time continuum is distorting, and so time is moving very fast. If I give a contemporary perspective and then also yield the whole substance of what you're asking in terms of the celestial perspective or the ancient information that is being revealed to us in our remembering, today we rarely feel our voices are significant until something goes wrong. So through the doing nature of our consciousness, we become slightly locked in the upper part of our bodies, because after all, this is the doing center. Doing with our hands, and doing with our cerebral dominance. And of course, the interesting thing is that our brains are divided into two hemispheres. So there's a perfect illustration for the substance of duality and the way that duality locks us into the ego. So how does this affect our voices? Well, what happens is that we get locked into the cerebral sound. So, I mean, whether we're in the United States of America or United Kingdom or those people that are speaking English in other parts of the world, where we tend to sound here, we go really fast. I mean, everything's... But if I come back into
It's
my
quite a
note,
dramatic demonstration there. Yes.
so what's happening, Stephen? I'm very, very concerned about this. And fortunately, the way that I work allows me to touch thousands of people, to allow them to become aware of how our voices are purely physical means that we can use to communicate the way we think and the way we feel, and that feeling is the language of the soul, not thinking, but
Mm.
feeling. Now, obviously, thinking is very important because thought creates reality. But there's a second part to that equation, which is that if we want to create something, we choose what we want to create because thought creates reality. But if we're not feeling the desire, the anticipation, the delight, the joy, the wonder, the adventure, the awesomeness of what it will be to create those things, we all know that manifestation is really complicated. So from a celestial perspective, we move into the cosmology of sound as a component of light, so that we know that light is mentioned in every single wisdom tradition or every single faith tradition throughout our world, our globe, whether it be the Dogon peoples in Western Africa, whether it be the Chinese, whether it be we Europeans or Caucasians, whether it be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That light downloads into color, into sound, and then into matter. So light and sound are literally consanguineous. They're linked together as unique energies. And that if we're literally opening up the sound of our note, the sound of our internal divine sovereign mantra that was given to us millennia ago before we entered into bodies. Very quick illustration of what I mean. This is a very ancient story, but the divine one created a statue of clay in his or her own image and asked the soul to enter the statue of clay. But the soul refused. What was the point of being tied, of being imprisoned within a small statue of clay, when the soul was completely ubiquitous? It could be omniscient and everywhere to experience the wonder of what the cosmos is all about, and the way that we see the cosmos working through, for example, the principal planets in our galaxy. And so the Divine One asked the angels to sing a seraphic chorus. And the soul was so enchanted that the soul agreed to enter into the statue of clay. And so began Adam Kadmon. So in that moment of procreation, we literally brought into our bodies the divine sound of the angels, which became our harmonic. So if we can find that harmonic, we're automatically creating a slipstream of energy that connects us once again with the angelic kingdom. And they are divine messengers, as we know, for the Intergalactic Council, that group of ascended masters and mistresses that have this supreme intelligence that allowing us to understand as we instrumentalize our lives that the other levels of Star Nation intelligence are working in coherence through supremely advanced technologies to help us through this really challenging time.
Well, Stuart, there's so many directions we could go with you in these things. I want to steer us back because I know we're going to get into an experiential time here to really focus on the specific Ascension mantras and maybe share a little bit about the codes that get transmitted and some of the mantras that you're gonna guide us in here for the next 10 minutes or so.
Yeah. So these codes that are being given are in the Hebrew language, the ancient Hebrew language. And I mean, immediately I want to say to anybody who is not necessarily cognizant of the Hebrew language, do not worry. Just as we know that we're not necessarily fully au fait with the Sanskrit language, but we still, because of the training that we've been through, the development of our spiritual intelligence over the last 50, 60 years, particularly since the 1960s, when the great Maharishi moved from India to the United States of America and began that huge revolution of consciousness in the 1960s. And as a result of their entry into our society, our thinking cultures, we began to draw great allegiance with a lot of the Sanskrit mantras, such as the Gayatri, Om Bhurabhuvasvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam. So we're not necessarily that familiarized with Sanskrit. It hasn't been a secondary language that we have been brought to understand unless we've been living in an ashram in India. So I just wanted to say that to begin with, that they're very, very, very simple codes that awaken through their syllables particular frequencies in our bodies that, as I was saying earlier, are already composite within ourselves. So that the ancient part of our DNA, we know that we have 44 codons of DNA that are dormant. These mantra are designed to awaken those 44 dormant DNA codes. I'm so excited about this. We're being given a unique gift from this extraordinary bank of intelligence. And so, for example, the sixth code, there are 12 in all, they move from awakening the human grounding of our presence into developing through 10, 11, 12, the crystalline presence that we know we're all developing because we're moving from a carbon nature into a crystalline focus in the way that we saw, for example, Yeshua, enabled to attain extraordinary feats of human experience, such as bilocating or walking on the Sea of Galilee, or indeed feeding the 5,000 from, was it 2 loaves and 5 fishes, or 5 loaves and 2 fishes?
I don't recall.
And having been in the early part of my adult consciousness in India with Sai Baba, I was very aware of the way that he regularly bilocated and how he often fed many of us after darshan. But the pile of rice that was there never seemed to diminish, but all the mouths were fed. So These codes provide us with an understanding of how we can really move into the inchoate nature of that meeting point between divine and human. And the sixth code, as I was saying, is the principle of the I am that I am, which, of course, as we know, was a code that was given to Moses when he was in a little bit of a fractious state, having allowed the Hebrew people, the Israelites, to move from captivity in Egypt. They went through the drama of the Red Sea, and then they got lost in Sinai. And as we know, jokingly, I'm not a Jewish person, but I have great friends that are Jewish, and I've spent a lot of time within Hasidic Jewish consciousness. We know that when a lot of Jewish people get together and they're fretting, they kvetch, 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 kvetch. So evidently Moses was slightly disturbed by the fact that they were feeling lost and bewildered and what do we do? What do we do? So he climbed Mount Hebron because everybody knew I need to get closer to God at that time. So he climbed Mount Hebron and called to the divine and was shown the burning bush. But he didn't seem to fully echolocate what the burning bush was all about. God was really saying, well, I am within nature. See the beauty and the wonder and the intelligence of this being that I am within nature. And so Moses once again said, tell me, who are you? And he heard, Eheye Asher, Eheye, Eheye Asher, Eheye, Eheye Asher, Eheye, which means simply, I am, but I am. So we know that there is crystalline within that, those few syllables, a code that awakens a neural pathway that leads us in our own divinity all the way through into the mind of God. So by repeating, by whispering, by chanting, Eheye Asher Eheye, I don't know if anybody can feel this as they listen to this recording, that they can feel a shimmering taking place within their heart chakra, which, of course, as we know, through the vagus nerve is an amplifier for our divine consciousness. So I choose the middle code, and then to illustrate further, shall I go on with the first code and then the 12th
Yes,
code?
please do.
The first code, Keter Etz Chaim, Keter Etz Chaim. If there are any Jewish people out there, that they will recognize that word Chaim. Keter Etz Chaim, on a biological level, literally opens up the double helix within our bodies that formulates the substance of our initial DNA coding. So in other words, through saying Keter Etz Chaim, we open within our bodies the great tree of life. And so we begin to see what our lives are truly about in the perspective of how we have moved from tears to triumph, how we've been through difficult circumstances whilst we've muscled up in the gymnasium, the soul gymnasium of planet Gaia, to develop a greater understanding of how free we can be. So by repeating Keter Etz Chaim, Keter Etz Chaim, Keter Etz Chaim, we begin to really feel the tree of life opening, and we begin to see the purpose of what our blood lineage is all about in relation to our spiritual lineage, and how sometimes they are linked and sometimes they become divided. How is this meeting you, Stephen?
It's totally meeting me. Do you want to sort of just engage in sort of like collectively sort of doing the mantras together so we sort of really anchor them?
Yeah. Shall I take us through a 10-minute sonic meditation?
Yes, yes, that'd be beautiful.
So everybody, if you can feel your body as aligned as possible, presumably you're sitting on a chair. If you're lying down, if you wouldn't mind becoming erect, meaning if you can feel your spine fully aligned by sitting either cross-legged on the floor or sitting in a chair, making sure that you feel grounded. And then just close your eyes. Feel the length in your spine. And imagine that the whole of your spine is filled with a silver white beam of light. This is your pranic cord. And we're going to open the pranic cord and see how it illuminates the conviction of your physical and your etheric bodies. So just begin by blowing all the breath out. Feel empty. Feel the need to breathe. And breathe in the pranayama as silver white light. Breathing in wide and deep. And feel how the pranic cord suddenly becomes switched on, illuminated, and radiates into your physical presence, and then let the breath go. Feel the need to breathe at the end. And recovery in, wide and deep. Feel how the pranic cord radiates through the entire girth of your body and now radiates out of your skin suit into your etheric sheath, 3 or 4 feet. Feel illuminated and let the breath go. Empty, empty, empty. Feel the need to breathe. And once again, recovery in. Feel the pranic cord illuminate even further, become emblazoned through the girth of your body, through the etheric sheath, into the auric sheath that begins to touch the walls, the ceiling, the floor in the room where you are placed. And then let the breath go. And finally, once again, recovery in, wide and deep. Feel the pranic cord illuminated through the girth of your body, through the etheric sheath, through the auric sheath, and then through the buddhic sheath. And feel this radiation passing through the walls, the ceiling, the floor, into the positive regard of the community around you, showing light and love. Let the breath go. At the end, when you're empty, feel the need to breathe and recovery in. And sitting in your heart, let it go on. Recovery in. And once again, recovery in. And then breathe in your own rhythm and pause and soak. And feel the stillness within. So we've effectively opened you as a preparation to feel the physicalization of these unique energies. And as you hum through your heart, see how your heart has become the most beautiful diamond in conjunction with your pranic cord and the radiation of your etheric sheath, your auric sheath, and the buddhic sheath, your energy field all around you. If you feel that these energies are boundless and therefore bewildering you, see the whole of you contained within a golden egg, a golden orb, as you sit, as you soak within the essence of your being. And now we're going to use 2 of the codes, but before we do this, let's just extend the breath through the sound of the Aum, the calling card of God. So begin by just letting the breath go in the softness of the way that you are experiencing these energies. And when you need to, recovery in, home, home, home. Eheye, Asha, Eheye, Eheye, Asha, Eheye, Eheye, Asha, Eheye. And feel how the whole of your being is shimmering internally with the lights that we have focused on creating, and how these are now being complemented by this ancient code that sacred followers have been using for millennia. And further still, the 12th code that Stephen mentioned earlier, El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Shaddai. And through the light features that are open within your body, remember we had over 100 trillion cells. They are now all lighting up like stars, like the stars within the Milky Way. You may also have other images pouring from your consciousness of what you perceive the Divine Mother, Father, God, Source to be. Know that through these utterings you have become absolutely protected within the field of this process. And just for a few remaining moments, feel yourself soaking in this sublime stillness, knowing that you have evoked the presence of the divine. And then just to finalize, as this sonic meditation is just being shared for a few moments, feel the feeling of your whole being from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, to the tips of your fingers, to the seat of your butt. And hearing, the hearingness of hearing, and smelling, tasting. And then bringing your palms together, gently rub your palms together to build up a little bit of heat, electromagnetic static. And then place your palms over your eyes and open your eyes into your palms so that the light of the outer space doesn't surprise you. And then just take your hands away, and you'll notice that your vision has become optimized, and that colors are brighter, and the form of whatever you're looking at becomes heightened. But right in the very center of you is this exquisite calm, where you feel the capacity of your own essence. In brevity, there's a little exposure to what those two characters can do. And so
Yeah.
now, of course, in the work, there'd be an open discussion of what people are experiencing. And I can provide interpretation if necessary.
Yeah. Well, I'll just comment that there's something about the quality of your voice, which is so steeped in these currents that just kind of entrains us into that. And it's so powerful. I could really feel the power in what was being transmitted there. So thank you.
My pleasure. I'm like a little boy in a sandpit. I'm having great fun.
Well, Stuart, we could keep going deeper and deeper with you, and I want to spend some time talking about your upcoming course, which is a remarkable opportunity to receive this transmission that you've been gestating for 46 years and really working on bringing this out to the deeper world in a powerful way. And so so we're really blessed that Stuart has agreed to teach his brand new course for Shift. It's really right perfectly timed at this moment when there's a lot that's breaking down in the outer world, and we need to activate our own center and build the new world from the new frequency patterns. So, Stuart is teaching this course. It's called Ascension Mantras from the Angels of Atlantis, ancient Hebrew seed syllables that activate your light body and awaken celestial wisdom. You can find it at the URL ascensionmantras.com, ascensionmantras.com. It's a 7 week program, as he mentioned earlier. There are no prerequisites for this. It's really if you just are called to activate the sacred power of sound in your own life. So, Stuart, I'd love for you to share about some of what your intentions are for what people will come away with, and then let's give a quick tour of the modules to preview what you're going to be teaching.
Yeah. So my principal intention is not to confound through the sophisticated nature of all that we have shared, but to see that by being totally within the substance of our belief, faith, and trust, that our hearts are the seat of the soul, and through the active participation of these codes, they will do something with us rather than we feeling that we need to do something with them.
Mm.
They will awaken deep, deep, deep memories if we allow ourselves to be open. And so that's why I preface that statement with belief, faith, and trust, because they're the three concomitants of love. The second is that, as Stephen has said, we're living at a very remarkable time where it seems that the world and all of our establishment processes are moving towards a critical condition. And the first thing that we're being asked to do is to remain calm and fear less. And so, by experiencing these codes, they will tonify our bodies. They will sensitize us, but they will tonify to such an extent that we'll feel a level of calmness and soothingness, so that we will be able to constantly use the mantra of, I am safe, I am secure, all is well, and I'm in absolute connection with my core vibration, which is another way of saying Kater Etz Chaim, because Kater Etz Chaim brings us into the very substance of our humanity. And of course, the one thing that I was referring to earlier, when we unplug from the patriarchy for thousands of years has said, come here and you will always feel safe and secure. So if we're looking into the patriarchy and we're seeing that it's based on tissues of lies or inappropriate malfeasance or maladministration, we're starting to energetically unplug. So where do we go to feel safe and secure? We go to our divine intelligence, we go to the codes and all of the other wonderful spiritual apparatus that we have to bring us into, I am safe, I am secure, all is well, and I'm in absolute connection with my core vibration. The third part, just to finalize, is that any of the preoccupations that come up, any of the dis-eases that come up in the beautiful community that I know will come and do this work, because all of the courses that I've exercised through the shift have brought lots and lots and lots of wonderful people who have been really enjoyably and delightfully actively involved, that any of those quandaries that people have, any of the challenges that people have, or the complexities, can be immediately transformed by the use of sound. Because sound transforms and light informs.
Hmm. Beautiful. So let's quickly tour the modules. So module one is enter the temple of sound and begin your journey with the angelic codes.
So I know many people come with a point of inquiry in the sense of the fact that the alert intelligence of what we have acquired, particularly over the last 40 or 50 years, since the beginning of the New Age, is confounding people. And the reason why it's confounding is because we've kept all of the information through what we've read in our heads. And what this particular process is about is bringing us deep into our bodies so that we feel embodied by this information, and therefore the rational ceases to be an area of division. We come into our bodies so that we actually feel safe and secure, and therefore we begin to perpetrate the magic and the miracle of bringing about a new earth where serendipity happens and we begin to develop co-creative communities. I'm working with 4 communities around the world that have been established since the end of last year, where people are coming together, they're leaving their jobs, they're leaving all of the toxic relationships, and they're coming together to live in eco-sustainable, co-creative communities. This is going to be the way of the future because they are going to be creating the new earth. And so here is a way of healing all of those conflicts that we still carry within us. That's the primary notion of what we can actually achieve. But of course, we all perceive this in different ways. So it's a question of developing a common language through our humanity, through empathy and compassion, of how remembered social advantages and prerogatives can be brought into our contemporary lives, so we cease being fixated with the news screen and worrying about what's taking place on the world. I don't mean that from a point of irresponsibility. I mean simply it's not, all it's doing is producing stress hormone in our bodies. And so what we need to do is to find a way of really embodying the nature of what it is to be a spiritual being having a human experience. And then all of that changes. What is without is within, what is above is below.
Module two, awaken your divine blueprint through the living tree of life.
What I described all the way through this wonderful introduction is a way of interpreting what our divine blueprint is.
Module three, awaken your light vehicle to bridge the human and divine.
What we've just done through the sonic meditation is to begin opening up the light vehicle, which many people can call the Merkaba, but actually what I'm doing is allowing us to feel how we have the composite energies within us, that if we can open up this sequence, because we are stars wrapped in skin, if we can open up this light body, automatically we produce volatile, optimized health within our bodies that brings us into a state of calmness where we can begin to make future choices that don't lead us into jeopardy. They lead us into sanctuary.
Module four, embody your divine essence and realize the I am presence.
And that's when we meet the divine. The
Module
divine
five.
presence, obviously, is I am that I am.
Module five, reveal your celestial nature and access the wisdom of the masters.
Well, we've heard a lot over the last 10, 15 years about becoming a human angel. Are we angels? No, we're human beings. But what we're seeing is that the angelic communion is literally present with us now. These 12 angels that I've been working with are just filling people's lives with the extraordinary nature of what our miraculous consciousness is all about. So if we can see a way of producing life, creating life, as though we were working in conjunction with the angels, they will do the work for us.
Module six, transmute karmic patterns and answer the call of your divine nature.
Questions, please. What do you recognize as being a karmic pattern? For example, if there are relationships in your life that are toxic? If there is, whether it's professional or personal, how can you begin to renegotiate them rather than being caught in statements that were once very alive within our cultures, particularly in the West? Blood is thicker than water. Now, what we're beginning to realize through the empathic community is that many people are saying, why on earth did I allow myself to be born into this family? So I don't mean in the sense of the fact that we become full of, energies such as hatred or conflict in relation to them. We just simply see that we're no longer in vibrational match. So we begin to heal the karma that chose to bring us into the understanding of what our divinity is really all about.
Mm. And finally, module 7, cultivate divine compassion and realize the presence of the sacred within.
And so the ascended masters and mistresses literally step into our lives. The angels step into our lives. Our lives become furnished with divine propositions. And as a result of that, life is never the same again. It becomes an easy pathway of extraordinary optimized promise.
Hmm. Well, what a beautiful and timely program for this moment to really find a sanctuary, a sacred sanctuary within that really emanates into the outer world and helps to design the new pattern into existence. So again, it's all at ascensionmantras.com. Share a few other things about it. So if you choose to move forward, you're going to get not only those 7 90-minute live sessions with Stewart, which are a great time to ask your questions and engage in practices together and really create that harmonic field that helps us all open to these higher frequencies. You're also going to get recordings of every session, so you can keep going back to them over the time. You'll have video and audio as well as word for word transcripts. There are weekly practices for home. There's a community group to support you and deepen your experience. And you'll also see on the page there are a number of extra bonuses that Stuart's been very gracious in offering. There's an Om So Hum guided audio meditation. So you want to share a little bit about that meditation?
Well, it's a sacred mantra. It's really a reference to what I was sharing earlier, that over the last 60 years, we in the West have become very used to the Sanskrit mantra. So the Om So Hum, particularly when it is sounded through the 432 hertz cycles per second, we move into divine harmony. We move into harmony with the Gaia.
Beautiful. And then we have a second bonus called Becoming a Human Angel. This is a guided audio meditation that Stuart's created for the program. Want to share more about that?
Literally, it's about becoming a human angel. So it gives a series of guidelines, series of steps of how we can conceive of that. The first thing we need to do is to snuggle up closely to the 12 angels of Atlantis. So, of course, just to illuminate for the people are thinking, well, who are the 12 angels of Atlantis? It's very easily seen on the angelsofatlantis.com. There they are in front of you. And all sorts of wonderful little devices that one can use to, for example, the oracle of the angels of Atlantis can become this wonderful opportunity to see how the angels become part of every nanosecond of our lives. I'm using it all the time when I go into meetings. The first thing that I do is open up the oracle, and there is one of the angels saying, what you need to do is this. So I use that consciousness in the meeting, and guess what? The meeting is always full of fruition. And often, because it's a job, there are lots of lovely things to do with gorgeous financial bonuses, which supersedes any anticipation that one may have. So that is a fun thing.
Beautiful. And then there's one final extra bonus that you get if you sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time. This is our incentive to really take the time to tune in now. Go to the page at ascensionmantras.com. And if you choose to move forward today, you're going to get a whole video transmission from Stewart called The Sound and Light Codes of the Angels of Atlantis. We've referenced some of that today, but share a little bit more about where you go with that video transmission.
So it's a sonic journey, it's a beautiful sonic journey of allowing people to feel that they can effortlessly be couched in these syllables. So obviously my voice recording the 12 codes, the 12 mantra, within the landscape of a beautiful piece of self-created music. And as a result of that, we will feel the 100 trillion cells in our bodies resonating with love and light.
Mm. Well, what a beautiful gift that is to give ourselves and others. Well, clearly it's going to be a very amazing program. We've kept the investment very accessible. It's just three payments of $128, or you can save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start June 18th and run Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and that time works well for England and Europe as well. If you can't make the live times, you'll still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community. There's some amazing testimonials from some of the most eminent teachers out there about Stewart and this program and the way he teaches. He's really extraordinary. He's blessed so many lives, empowered so many voices. He's harmonized so many souls, and he really is here to be of maximum service in this time. So again, it's all at ascensionmantras.com. And if you choose to move forward today, you're going to get that special bonus of the sound and light codes of the Angels of Atlantis video transmission.
Yippee! Fantastic.
So,
Stephen, thank you
Stuart,
so much.
anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are thinking about doing the full course with you?
Oh my gosh. Um, I feel the key is a fuller understanding of what it is to remember who we truly are rather than what we have become. And so I say this simply because I'd like to invoke and evoke people into a contemplative understanding, a knowing of what that remembering is. In other words, seeing ourselves in the beauty and the wonder and the delight of what it is to be human, full of love and full of joy.
That's what it's all about. Well, thank you, Stuart, for being full of love, full of joy, and bringing these deeper codes of ascension to us. So, what a blessing. And thank you all for joining. And if you'd like to go further into the full course with Stuart, again, it's all at ascensionmantras.com. The title is Ascension Mantras from the Angels of Atlantis, ancient Hebrew seed syllables that activate your light body and awaken celestial wisdom. And you'll get that special sound and light codes of the Angels of Atlantis when you sign up at midnight tonight.
Go for it, everybody! Go for it! Bless you, Stephen. Thank you so much. You're such a gentleman. It's been wonderful spending time with you.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you, Stuart.